Highway, Mr. Mitchell. We'll talk about that at the regular council meeting.
Yes, sir.
Resolution repealing resolution 724. That was the warrants that we did a couple of weeks ago with the sanitation trucks. So that'll be item number 4 that we'll discuss today. Item number 4 is an ordinance authorizing the instant executive sale and delivery of the non-exceed $12 million principal amount general obligations. Ms. Beville will be here at that time to talk about those issues right there for us at 5 o'clock.
We need to wait till then, talk about it.
Right, yep, 5 o'clock. All right, Mr. Jim Wright. Okay, number 5, application towing company by Threadford Green, LGI Towing, 2480 Alabama River Parkway. Guess they'll be here at the 5 o'clock hour. We'll figure out what we're doing with that towing company. Application for a towing company by Michael W. Taylor. We'll discuss that at 5, 2351 Lower Wetumpka Road. And we have an application for a retail liquor license, 48 Flavors LLC, 6134 Atlanta Highway, District 9. We'll have a public hearing on that. Mr. Jim Wright?
We're going to have some conversation on that one. It's, there's some question there.
Okay.
Some opposition to it.
Okay. All right. Item number 8 is application for retail beer and retail table wine off premises by Perry 24 Marathon Food Mart on South Perry Street. It's in District 7. Mr. Szymanski?
Yep, no issues with that.
Okay. Item number 9, application for retail beer and retail table wine off premises by Edgemont 24 Liberty Food Mart 904 West Edgemont District 4.
We'll talk about it in a regular session.
You can't talk about it now?
Well, we can if you would
I'm
like
just
to.
teasing.
Okay. You like to, we can. I can talk about it.
All right, item number 10 is application for retail beer and table wine off premises Quick Trip Corporation, West South Boulevard, that's District 4. We will have a public hearing on that. We'll discuss that at the regular meeting. And item number 11 is some demolitions. Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, demolition, item number 12. And item number 12 is the regular abatement, and we'll discuss that at the regular meeting. Any questions from anyone on the council before we move into our public communication? All right, in our work session roster and public communication, Mr. Patrick Dunson, updated traditional sewer of Montgomery Ward.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Patrick.
Good afternoon.
Just wanted to come today and give you a little update on where we stand with the sewer expansion in Montgomery. As many of you may know, some of you I know actually attended the meeting that we had at the county commission along with the city council members. Good news at this point, we have completed all the studies that were underway. So all studies have been completed, and we have all the information that we need to make good decisions moving forward. Second point, Terry was supposed to be here today to update you on where we stand with the actual agreement between the City of Montgomery and the Montgomery Water Works. But I'm going to give you a little preview. She is in the process of preparing kind of an email with all the bullet points on it. But what she has told me was that the agreement sits with the Montgomery Water Works, and it's anticipated to go before their board in March. Pending their board's approval and then ultimate signature of the agreement, I think we then could move forward with the waterworks could then move forward with actual contracting with design firms to move forward with the design of the water and sewer expansion, or the sewer expansion.
I have a question, President. The question I have is, did we ever come with an agreement what we were going to do on the back end of Haver Road? When we talked at the table, we was talking about the tie-in on that end. Did we ever come in agreement with that?
The way I understand it, between the City Council and the County Commission, I guess there's already a previous agreement as to what is going to be done. If that agreement is going to be changed, it would take, I think, both entities to kind of get back together and discuss that, come to a new agreement, which would add further time and effort getting both parties to agree. But so it's not that it can't be done, it's just there's another process that would have to be gone through, and I think Terry can expand on that in the email she's going to send out.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. President,
I got a question.
Ms. Johnson?
Patrick, you said the agreement is going before the Waterworks Board, this upcoming meeting. How long have they had that agreement?
I don't know the length of time, because that's something that Terry's been kind of going back and forth with between attorneys, attorney to attorney. And I haven't really been part of that process.
If I'm not mistaken, Mr. President, we signed we approved a resolution
That makes sense, yeah.
about a year and a half ago about this agreement, and we're just not hearing about it going before their board. I was under the impression that
a
agreement
good
was
question.
already signed,
You're gonna go to Trevor.
and we were ready to move forward. And because this is that funding conversation, I kind of wanted to start last meeting about what's going on with the funding, because, you know, it's kind of in the air right now. We don't have any definites, and we signed a resolution with the understanding that it was all definite, and it does not sound definite, because it's been a while.
Right, because they bagged out on the DECA funding also. So I think at our last meeting, Susan talked about where we were with the Montgomery Waterworks moving forward and what would be the savings by us turning that money back over. So what I'll do, Ms. Johnson, I'll try to set something up with Susan and Terry to try to get an update on where we at with that during our time after the work session.
That sounds good. Thank you,
Right,
Mr. President.
thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Dunson?
That's all I had. Unless
Thank you, Patrick.
any other questions. Thank you.
All right. Next on the work session roster, Mr. Darryl Washington.
Good afternoon, City Council,
Good
COO,
afternoon.
Legal. I was asked to come up and speak a little bit about the PPP Downtown Revitalization organization that was on last week's City Council. And to just tell you a little bit about it, first of all, we'll start with, I provided a handout which goes over some of the talk points along with the Downtown Action Plan, which is the basis of this. But let's just start with the definition. PPP, it does not stand for Payroll Protection Plan. It is public-private partnership. And a public-private partnership in the sense that from a public entity, they will provide funding as well as technical assistance, as well as private entities to stand up an organization. Why is this organization stood up? It could be for a variety of reasons, but for the purpose of downtown revitalization, as you will see in the talking points that's provided, one, this agency acts outside of the city. It allows for more nimble action in terms of projects, initiatives, and programs, but it is also set up to bring in outside investment a lot quicker. Outside investment in terms of funding through grants and other entities. So when you look at the why, if you look at the Downtown Action Plan that I provided to you on page 23 and 32, it talks about the fact that one of the problems in downtown Montgomery is there is not an entity that focuses on downtown 24/7. There's not a paid entity that has individuals and their sole purpose is capitalizing on the momentum that we have downtown around tourism as well as around investment. I think between 2014 and 2021, there was over $200 million worth of investment in downtown. We still continue to see that momentum with 3 hotels in the process of being built, several new properties that have been purchased. But for us to realize that full potential, we need an entity that every day is focused on solving the problems that businesses have downtown, working with our property owners, working with our tourist attractions, but also working with the city. So the purpose of this organization is, if you look at the landscape of cities around Alabama, I think Birmingham has 2 entities that strictly focus on downtown, Rev Birmingham and Urban Impact. I actually worked for Urban Impact. Huntsville has 2 entities that focuses on downtown and their commercial corridors. Wetumpka has 1. Boston, Massachusetts has over 10 different entities that focus on business districts. We have 0. Now we do have the Downtown Business Association, but those are volunteers. This is an entity that would have a full-time staff that's dedicated with practitioners that focus on some of the projects and some of the initiatives that you see there in the Downtown Action Plan. So just wanted to provide a little context in terms of where we are. There are several efforts going on now. Of course, as you all know, we recently became a Main Street designated community. We have an advisory committee that's looking at how do we stand up the entity that's going to focus on Main Street. We also have parallel to that an advisory committee looking at the business improvement district, which is something totally different. So we want to meld all of those efforts together, and over the next few months we'll be doing research around what does best practices look like, what's the best model to stand up. But more than anything, over the next few months we'll be having some deep conversations with each of you individually to share with you what we're doing, but also our property owners and our businesses downtown. So that's it in a nutshell. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, anyone have any questions, Mr.
Mr.
White?
President, Darryl, I'm excited to hear about the progress that we're making here. The reference to Rev Birmingham is a good comp, I think, for our city. So the organization, it's going to exist in your office and then partner with these other groups as we kind of deploy resources?
No, it would be a separate entity. It would not be a quasi-government agency like the Downtown Redevelopment Authority. This is going to be a separate entity, but it will receive funding from the city, as well as it could receive funding from the county and other federal agencies. And the purpose is to put it outside of the city's purview, so one, the community can drive the actions. It would be there would be a board made up of community stakeholders, so that no matter who's sitting in City Hall, this entity will have a focus on downtown. So that was the whole purpose of making it a P3.
Mr. President,
Mr. Mitchell?
Mr. Washington, I'm looking at a couple of pictures. So if Montgomery is growing, are we going to expand when we are putting our food trucks? Are our food trucks going to be designated to one place? I know we don't want them to compete with brick and mortar, but at the same time, we just mentioned that a lot of these businesses close early. I just want to know, are we looking at expanding where our food trucks can go?
Yes, in fact, we're looking at everything. Everything is on the table, because at the end of the day, we're getting people in Montgomery, thanks to the efforts of the chamber, but they're looking for an experience, and that experience can't just be in one place. One of the things that this agency will do, or this organization, work with the businesses to see what are some type of events that they like to see, but also the people who live downtown, work downtown, what would they like to see? So yes, that's one of many things that we're looking at. And then also let me just say, everybody sometimes have an issue with why are you focusing on downtown? Downtown is where our assets are. We were the most visited city of any other city in Alabama by foreign tourists. And most of them conjugate downtown. Most of our tourist sites are downtown. But the other aspect of downtown, if downtown is growing, it definitely will have an impact on everybody's district, because that growth starts inside and go out.
Mr. President,
Ms. Jones?
Darryl, I know we briefly already talked a little bit, but I do have a question on, because, in order to continually grow downtown and surrounding areas, we got to think about residential. Is that a piece of this conversation, or would that be something separate? Is this just going to focus on corporate and retail?
No, it's going to focus also on one of the things missing downtown is residential density. There is some movement around residential density, and you would definitely have to look at some of the bordering communities like Centennial Hill, Oak Park, Capitol Heights, and others. But no, this organization will have a broad focus, but really is determined on what the community stakeholders want.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the question, Mr.
President,
Washington?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Ms. Washington, we'll get together because I want to ask you a couple of things about this as well, and there's also some stuff I want to ask you about what we're working on for our district and District 42.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Washington.
All right, thank you.
All right, Mr. Joe Purnell, sponsored by Councillor Jim Wright.
Good afternoon. My name is Mr. Nell. I requested to come before the council to address an issue of my concern.
Mr. Purnell, I think you might have turned your mic off. Is the light on? It doesn't have a light? Okay, all right, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a little better.
Okay. I'm here to address an issue dealing with the Montgomery Police Department, which I'm very concerned about. Over the years, members of my family have been involved in vehicular accidents. I think it was about 3 years ago, my daughter was involved in an accident on the boulevard. And at that time, I was working in Lowndes County, DHR. And I drove from Hayden all the way here and got to the scene of the accident before the police did. There was another accident involving my wife and oldest daughter on Atlanta Highway in the church. Again, I was working in Haydenwood, DHR, and I arrived on the Atlanta Highway from Haydenwood before the police did. There's another incident involving myself and my wife where we were struck from behind on October 5th, 2022. And my wife had to be taken to the hospital ambulance. I remained because someone had to be there to the scene of the accident, and it still took the police an hour and 15 minutes to get there. Recently, I think it was in November of last year, my daughter was involved in an accident on Taylor Road and Dunson. And she called 911 at 5:11, and no one from the police department arrived until around about 7 o'clock. The temperature that night was between 35 and 38 degrees. The point that I'm making here is I understand the police department is working hard to keep the city clear of crime and solve crime. However, there's another aspect of this community. The majority of us are not involved in crime. The problem we're having is the fact that this is an issue that can be addressed because to wait 2 hours, because of this last accident, the gentleman who hit my daughter left the scene of the accident, came back only after the police arrived. And so we informed the police, and that was the only time, and the police was reluctant to address the issue. But we had to push it. And the police became, as I would say, somewhat annoyed because my wife was pushing the issue. Well, the point that I'm making here is that maybe this goes under the radar at the length of time that it takes the police department to address vehicular incidents. 1 hour, okay, 2 hours, hour and a half, standing in hot sun. My wife was going to the hospital in an ambulance, and I couldn't go with her because I had to remain at the scene. And then I had to go myself because I have 380 discs being 26 years in the service. The point here is that I'm asking for this to be addressed in such a manner whereby a little bit more proficiency can be incorporated in this matter. I understand that they're bogged down with a lot of crime and things of that nature, but to win the trust of the public is not just solving crime, it's to address those issues that affect the public in such a manner that the police department is involved. And when the officer arrived on the scene, the officer made it a point to show his exasperation with us because my wife was telling him addressing him about the reason that it took him so long to come. Now, if that's the case, the officer forgot his position as a public servant. My wife did not raise her voice, did not do anything. I had to push her back because he began to raise his voice, and I asked him, why are you raising your voice? The point here is that this is a concern that needs to be addressed. It should not take an hour and a half for the police to come to a scene on the corner of Vaughn and Taylor. It took 2 hours. 2 hours. This gentleman had time enough to leave the scene and come back, and we had to ask the police, and he still had to call his supervisor to ask and see how he should address the matter. These concerns of this nature would go very far in addressing the trust that the public has with the police department other than just solving crime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Reed, would I see we have no police officers here.
No, but I can speak to the matter. You're correct.
Okay.
It is an issue that we've identified. We have the numbers on it. We roughly have 7,000 vehicular incidents in the city of Montgomery annually, so that's about 19 a day. Right now, we have about 321 officers sworn. We are budgeted for 490. So that lets you know we're about 170 officers short of what we need. So we are looking at some ways to get after this particular issue, as in maybe use a consultant that only deals with accidents that don't have any injuries or serious injuries. So we actually had a presentation last Thursday on this particular matter, so we are looking into it. It's going to cost us, but we're working right now to figure out the cost savings versus how much it would cost us in labor and see if that works out for us. So we do understand your frustration in that space. It's something that has been identified to us. We're looking into it and trying to come up with some remedies for our citizens because we believe the same. We just don't have enough officers, but that's not an excuse. So we're looking at ways creatively to take care of those folks that are in those type of vehicle accidents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Purnell.
Thank you.
Mr. Calhoun.
Mr. Pruitt?
Mr. Reed, quick question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Calhoun and I had the opportunity to meet with Chief Albert a couple weeks ago, and there was some suggestions being thrown around what we could do. Could we possibly, as a council, could we get a breakdown of the traffic division, patrol division, SWAT, homicide, how many people we got in each one? Because there were some ideas that were thrown out about some incentive pay, some bonuses and that type of stuff. And I wanted to get with Mr. Calhoun and go ahead and maybe start one of our committees because we need to start pushing that avenue. It was about a month ago that we met with Chief Albert.
Okay.
And talked about doing some stuff with Fallout possibly and all that. And so
Okay.
I think we need to start doing that now more than later, I guess.
Okay,
Mr.
we'll-
Pro Tem, we'll work with you all to do that,
Thanks.
and also we'd love for you guys to stand up that committee or whatever, and then we'll work with you through that also to come up
Okay.
with some good ideas. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
In the regular meeting, Ms. Blaylock, we'll just go ahead and stand up and call that for the Public Safety Committee to meet, to go ahead and try to get those suggestions and that stuff pushed out so we can get before the council.
President Calhoun.
Are you going to get with me on a date and time?
Probably before the next council meeting.
Yeah. We'll discuss it right after this work session.
Council meeting, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah,
let's just
3 o'clock
talk about it right out there.
3
We'll have
o'clock,
a
we
date.
can go into it
Okay.
before.
All right, Mr. Grimes?
Yeah, I got a question, Jeremy. Is any way in this shortage, while we're short, we're down, sounds like 170 officers or something like that, any way we could get the sheriff's department, who's full, if nothing else, to work the wrecks for us? Any way we could call on them to do that?
Good idea.
So that's a conversation between the sheriff and Chief Albert and then the county commissioners. I can't speak for them what that answer will be. I know we've asked the question. I don't know what their burden or work or when it comes to what they're patrolling and how often their units are out and about. So that is worth revisiting that
Okay.
conversation. I just can't give you a clear answer on what to expect.
No,
out of that conversation.
I didn't figure you could. I just
Yeah.
want us to think about that, think out of the box, because we're so desperately low, we got to think out of the box to get a solution.
Believe me, we are trying to turn over every stone possible to handle the multitude of different public safety issues we have and the lack of interest in young folks and folks that are qualified to be able to come into those professions. We're trying to make them more attractive, lucrative, signing bonuses, maybe paying for college. I mean, there's a number of things we're looking at on the human resources side, but then as we are presented with a number of issues and a number of challenges going forward, we're trying to think outside of the box, like I said, with the possible having a contract service of which would be manned by retired police officers that would go out and respond to those incidents like we talked to with the gentleman there. So those are the kind of things we're looking for and thinking outside of the box on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Ashley Johnson? teaching, you know. Take one, pass it down.
Yes.
Afternoon, Council. How are you guys doing?
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Ashley Johnson, and I'm the director of the Pivot Path, which is an adult education program here in Montgomery, Alabama. And the packet that you have before you is giving you a little information about our mission, our value, and our services. We serve adult learners ages 19 and up here at the library downtown, the Julia Hampton Library, every Tuesday and Thursday. And we serve about 17 adult learners at this time. And our numbers have significantly increased from 17 just started January 9th to 42 adult learners that are registered for a March class and 42 that are registered for the June class. So I am coming before the council today to ask for support and partnership in helping our adult learners excel. Being an adult learner myself, I got my GED in 2006, and I went on to get a master's degree, which I finished last year in July. And it is my passion to help adult learners that were like me to excel and move on to the next level.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, Ms. Johnson?
Ms. Johnson, what type of what are you training? What are you trying to do?
They're training and prepping to get their GED certificate.
Okay.
All right, had a
Thank
question, Mr. Pruitt.
Yeah, are they on the list?
Are you on the vendor list?
Are they
For
on
the
our
city of
vendor
Montgomery?
list? You are,
What's their name again?
the pivotal path, the pivot path?
I cannot hear you.
The pivot path, P-I-V-O-T.
Pivot Path? I do not have her on the 501c3 list.
Ashley Johnson,
What is the name of your 501c3?
the Pivot Path,
It was within the last week,
2 weeks.
2 weeks, Ms. Blaylock.
They probably ain't put it in yet, I bet.
Right, yeah, maybe.
If they just did it, I bet you they put the paperwork in.
She printed it for me just before we came in here, so I don't know whether she hasn't finished the process or if
Who'd
there's
you
a
do the
question.
paperwork with? Amy or Mary?
Ken, my vendor number is 6027. I have an email with the vendor number.
10.
Okay, if you're wanting them to give contingency funds, you're going to have to go through Mr. Weaver to get set up as a 501c3, and that requires a little bit more than the purchasing department does. And if you will contact me tomorrow, I can get you to Mr. Weaver, and he'll get you the packet of information.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Good luck. Mr. Bill Gilliard.
Thank you for the privilege of speaking to you. I had hoped that the new chairman of Think Big Montgomery would have been here today because he was at the county commission and introduced himself this morning. But he was not able to come. That's why you see me.
Okay.
And hopefully in the future, you will see much less of me and much more of him. I want to tell you something that shocked me. I'm talking about really surprised me. I was leaving my church, which is located not far from Oak Park, and I got on 85 South, headed south toward Union Street. And I looked up, and to my surprise, on the billboard was Think Big. I said, whoa. And I pulled quickly to the side, came back around, took a picture. I said, my God, nothing is too hard for you. Because God has demonstrated to me now that Think Big is not about Bill Gilliard. Think Big is my message to the people, that if you can get people to think big, you can change the mindset and change the culture, and you can change the mentality of people who not thinking small, and killing one another. So I came to tell you that it's a new day in Montgomery, because all over Montgomery, on the billboards, people can see the Think Big message. And now we're about to take it into all of the high schools. You don't hear me. All the high schools, training them to think big and understand that BIG stands for believe in God, believe in good, believe in grace, believe in giving, believe in getting, believe in gratitude, and the list goes on. And all I can say is we're working on the air gate, because we already now have the eye gate. We have it in place. Now we've got to set it to music. And that's what we're asking you all to help us. You all can help us. You all can help us. You all can help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gilliard. Lee Walker, sponsored by Mr. Pruitt. Ms. Walker, you can use that mic over there if you want to just go.
Hi there. My name is Leah Walker, otherwise known as LC on Nextdoor, and the only organization I represent are gray-haired old ladies. That's a joke, okay? Gray hair, old lady, okay. And I notice you have Capital of Dreams. For a lot of people, approximately 26 to 28,000 people that live here in this beautiful city of Montgomery, just being able to park your car so you can go into a building or a place and shop or watch a movie or do the things that everybody else who's mobile can do, that's their dream. As a matter of fact, I got some ladies here who represent that dream. Did you know that the city of Montgomery, depending on which news source you read, is either 8th or 10th in the nation as the worst place to live if you have a disability? And that's from 2 Alabama news sources and recent. I don't think that that's the legacy we need in this city. But my mama taught me that if you're going to talk about a problem, you better have a solution. So I have a solution, and I've got a copy of it for each one of you. And it's not going to cost the city any money. That should get everybody excited. I got a look from him. It really isn't. Everything you need to be able to do this, you already have here. And it's not going to tax the police department. We're not going to have cops running around in little clown cars trying to give out tickets in parking lots. They have more important things to handle, like big car accidents, shootings, muggings. Somebody poisoned your cat. That's important to some people. Okay, maybe not the cat. This is really important, though, for people with disabilities, and it's a sizable minority. So if, with permission, I'm going to pass this down. Who do I give this to? You can pass them out. And I've even got an extra here if you want one. Thank you. The solution is going to be something that has been done in another city. I didn't live in that city, but it's a bigger city than Montgomery, Duncanville, Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. If it can work there, it can work here, and I've got people already willing to be volunteers. Hence the reason it's not going to cost you anything. So, I hope you'll take a look at it, read it, let it replace your Reader's Digest for your rest time. But please, please read it, and I'd be willing to work with anybody who's interested in working on it. Thank you very much.
Ms. Walker, will you tell everybody what the problem is?
The problem is people parking illegally
Yes.
in the parking slots designated for people with disabilities. And for the record, I've tried to talk nicely to people. I really am a nice person, despite what people say. I have approached, just last week, I approached a lady who was parked in the blue lined area for loading and unloading. She wasn't a foot from the back of that van. Her car was not 1 foot away. And I went over and I said, ma'am, you do realize you're blocking this person from being able to load their disabled loved one in. I'm not going to use her language. I'm sorry, my mama's in heaven and she would not give me a good recommendation if I did. But she did, show me what a bird looks like upside down. And I've actually approached people and it's in the write-up, the different excuses. People need to be able to get in and out of their vehicles. They need to be able to park where they need to park. This lady here came here specifically today. You want to go ahead and stand up and wave hi? No, don't have to. But she can't park anywhere she wants to and walk. We've got people with invisible disabilities, but they have the placard, they have the plate, they have the sticker. All I'm saying is stop parking your cars where you're not allowed to park them. But I can't expect our police department that's overburdened to do it. And if we're the ones complaining, we should volunteer. That's what this is all about.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walker.
Mr. President, I got a quick question.
Mrs. Szymanski.
And this might be a question for Jeremy or Chief Rucker or somebody, but can an individual, if they see somebody parked, take a picture of a car and sign a warrant on that person?
We can't put anything on someone's car.
No, I know, but like if I see somebody driving down the road and they throw trash out their car and I take a picture of the car and I sign a warrant on it.
You have to come down to the municipal court and sign a affidavit.
Even on parking in the handicap?
I don't know about the handicap, but I know about the lawyers over there.
I have no clue.
Not
even going to try to fake it. They have no clue. Can't get you an answer, though.
I'd just be curious because, if there's a way to give citizens some power over this problem, then I'd love to hear that.
Well, I can review it for you real quick because I know you don't have time to read this here. What I do, what any other volunteer citizen does, we stand back away from the vehicle so we're not touching it or getting near it to avoid confrontation. We take a picture of the license plate and the car parked improperly because you got to zoom on your camera. Then you go around the front, make sure there's no hanging placard because you don't want to improperly impose, right? And if there isn't, we take a picture of that too. We send it via email to a designated person with the police department who records the pictures, the date, and the license plate. Tickets can be issued, which the police department already has tickets, to the person's home. They don't have to meet with me at all in a parking lot. I don't have to address it at all. My camera addresses it. It's called technology.
All right, any other questions, Mr. Walker?
Mr. President,
Mr. Mitchell?
this is for the legal team. It kind of sounds like the traffic light ticket, the speeding ticket. Are we? I know we have been going back and forth with that being us being able to do that. Would that fall in the same realm as what she's talking about?
I would think potentially, yes. And of course, now the red light cameras are working now. Supreme Court passed on their constitutionality, so they were worked. So they're being issued, and we're pursuing them in municipal court, and still pursuing them to some degree in circuit court. So it's happening.
So it's possible that this could work as well.
It could.
Okay. So I guess we'll discuss that in that public safety committee that we'll assign, also with the speed cars also.
As well as ATVs.
Yes. All right. Any other questions? Ms. Walker? Thank you, Ms. Walker.
Thank you.
Ms. Beeville? If you would, Mr. Jenwright, we had some questions on item number 4, if you want to come up and talk about that before we adjourn the work session.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Jenwright, specific questions?
Yeah, what's the 12 million for?
Okay, we're on item number 4. Well, item number 3, you understand, we're asking that be repealed because,
And that's 3 million.
yeah, that, 3 million is not going to take care of the needs of the sanitation department, street maintenance, and landfill.
So this is equipment for those departments.
Yes, and I have a listing of those here. The statute, the federal statute, I think is 1147-1, is for a short period of time, like a year or less. And that's why we asked for the resolution, which we thought due to miscommunication that was needed. And then in talking with bond counsel, we find out that if it's going to extend over a 3-year period of time, we have to go back under 1147-2 and ask that the
Is
council.
this kind of like a line of credit?
It's not a line of credit. It's actually similar to, which I asked those questions, but nobody could answer. You remember when we used to do lease purchases?
Yeah.
This equipment is actually going to have to be on the books of the city. And the companies that it's being bought from, I think there are 22 sanitation trucks, a street sweeper, 8 mini vacs.
You have a copy? I like to
Not
see-
mini vacs, litter vacs, excuse me.
Okay.
And about 9 dump trucks in total. And so it's somewhere a little bit less than $12 million. And I'm asking for this over a 3-year period. We're not going to get back into.
So you won't draw it, you'll draw maybe.
We'll
two-
draw it as we get the equipment.
As you get, because the
Yes.
equipment's not available, I'm sure.
I'm sorry?
The equipment's not available unless you,
Well, I hate to tell you this, but there are 8, if I remember correctly, 7 or 8 sanitation trucks sitting waiting to be delivered. And the,
we don't have the money to buy them?
straight out,
No.
no, sir, over a 3-year period.
Can you list those pieces of equipment again, Ms. Betty?
22 sanitation trucks, they're different lengths, and I've got how many at different lengths, okay? There's 9 dump trucks, if I remember correctly,
Dump.
8 litter vacs, and 1 street sweeper.
Mr. President,
Ms. Beard?
how many street sweepers do we have now?
You
Last
have
I heard, there was what, 1?
2
We
and
do
one works. So we have 2 in the inventory, but 1 that actually works.
So we
Okay, so
actually
are we
got one.
working
I was
on the
counting
broken one?
15, but one works.
So it's just not that easy because
Right.
we have a backlog of parts,
Yes,
all
sir.
those things. So it's in the city lot, awaiting to be repaired, but those 2 street sweepers still don't get after the level of
Oh,
attention that's
correct.
needed across the city.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Pruitt, and
I
ask
have
your
a
question.
question.
Mr. Pruitt?
Can we add to this?
Sir,
Can we add to this? Can we
Uh,
add some paving money to this?
not with the ordinance that's before you today.
Well, can we change it and amend it?
At some
Because
future-
everybody up here, I think, needs some paving money.
I'm sorry?
Everybody up here needs some paving money, and we're in a world of hurt for paving. Could we amend this,
To add
whatever, $5-6 million divided by 9?
for paving?
Yes, ma'am.
It's not for paving, it has
This
to be
is for-
No, I'm
capital-
saying, can we amend this to do a line of credit or whatever you want to call it?
That would need to be a separate document. This is only for capital outlay, like heavy equipment, your rolling stock.
It's like the lease purchase, what you
It's
Yeah,
like the
yes.
old lease purchase, except we're not gonna be taking on a new 3-year lease and rolling off an old 3-year lease.
Well, let me ask you this, can we get a document at the next council meeting for this council to get some additional paving money?
Yes, Mr. Pruitt, the council can do that document?
Mr. President?
so we go, is this 20
If
year?
we want to do this, we need to
Mr. President, let me ask a question,
Mr.
pave
please.
some streets,
Mr. Jenwright?
to have.
Is this a 20-year bond?
No, sir,
No.
3-year bond.
years. Yes,
Pay it back 3 years.
in 3 years.
Well, so to I guess try to help clarify, when we first went out with this program, this is the program we talked about this past summer that we were going to lease and then return a rolling stock of dump trucks, sanitation trucks, all those things.
Is the county doing that now?
Don't know what they're doing. But moreover, we all agreed in this body that we would execute that. The only thing that we're talking about now is how we're paying for it. What we assumed was we could pay the $3 million for this year and then pay the $3 million for the second year out of the general fund. Based on the parameters of the contract and how we have to go to the bank to move that instrument, we need to say it's for $9 million for the 3 years and then execute. But because of statute,
It's 12 million.
it's 12 million, I'm sorry.
We got 12 million, we got to pay back
Right,
4
but
million a year.
the cost hasn't changed. That's the point. All we're doing is structuring how we're financing it and getting your approval to finance it.
Well,
So
you
there's
can-
no new cost here.
You can see how it'd be a little confusion to the council though, Mr. Reed.
Understand, and
Yeah,
I'm trying to
and
clarify
understand
that.
this though, that the council does need some paving money for that street sweeper to go right on.
Understood.
What we
Yeah,
got?
I mean,
But that's not capital dollars.
right,
And
and I didn't understand that, but I
Right.
get that, but I just want a
Yeah, yeah.
commitment that we'll.
So that's
come back
another
and-
conversation that we need to have with the council
Mr.
about
President.
paving dollars, which you are correct.
Right.
We were gonna come to the council anyway and have that conversation as we have run out
Okay.
of those dollars. So that's a different conversation. I just don't want the two conversations to get merged and then we kind of lose the focus on what we're talking about with this particular.
We're gonna pay
resolution.
this back, 4 million a year out of cash flow.
Say that again.
And you're gonna pay $4 million a year back.
We
Out- out
can
of
do
cash.
that. There's no penalty for paying it early, or we can take those funds, put them in an account. If we're making more interest than what we have to pay the bank, and pay it all at the end of that
Okay.
period.
Mr. President,
Ms. Johnson?
Ms. Beville.
Yes, ma'am.
And Jeremy, Mr. Reed, I have a question about the equipment. I asked to go back through the equipment because we have 22 sanitation trucks. Of course, we need them. But if we have 2 street sweepers on stock, only one works, and we're only ordering one more, my issue with that is I would like us to relook at the equipment that we're trying to order, because that street sweeper is gonna go in one area.
Once
And
again-
it's not gonna come out and come to my area.
But once again, that is for, I believe, this year. By the time we get to the third year, would have replaced and added to the entire stock of vehicles once. So that's why I'm saying, what we agreed upon before, what we're talking about is funding it 1 year. The 22 that will come into our inventory this fiscal year is for this fiscal year. We will rotate out the old stock, and then next year we would get 22 more trucks to get to 66 trucks by the end of the third year. So that is just in the first year programming for the lease purchase agreement. We also have programmed in there additional street sweepers. They're just going to come at a later time.
I got a question. So we're doing a 3-year loan, for lack of better terms. And then next year, we'll do another 3-year loan, right?
If we don't need to do another 3-year loan for 25 is what you're referring to. That's our old lease purchase process that we actually finally paid off. I think it was in 21 when we went to the bond market and the bonds
Yeah.
came back at a premium. So my recommendation is, because what was initially wanted and what the banks would allow us to do, we couldn't do it, okay? Is that we go ahead, try to follow through on what has been asked of the city by these departments in this year. When that 3-year period ends and we paid this equipment off, then go back and get whatever is needed.
So we'll pay this off before we go back and do something else.
That's my recommendation, yes,
So we're
sir.
not gonna go out every year and buy
No, sir.
22 more, 22 more, 22
It
more.
won't be needed, because, you know, we bought, 21 new sanitation trucks, that came in late 21, if I remember correctly. And this 22 will get them to, if I can think today,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and they've got some trucks that, are still working over there.
So in a perfect world, we won't do this again until 27.
In a perfect world.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
One more, Mr. President.
Ms. Johnson?
Ms. Beville, what's our interest rate? I see it says the prime interest rate, but what is the actual?
It's what they call a SOFR rate that used to be LIBOR, and it's daily. When I checked last week, we were somewhere 5.5%.
Okay.
Sir?
That's a great rate.
Oh, it is today? Well, I haven't had time to look today. Okay.
All right. Any other questions, Ms. Beville?
And just to clarify, I'm looking at the presentation we did. I don't know if the numbers are exactly right, so check me on that,
I
Ms.
got it.
Beville. But at the end of the program, when we are fully stopped with the rotation, I'm looking at 9 street sweepers in all.
In the overall plan.
In the overall plan, yes, that's what I'm saying. So by the time we get to the end of the third year, we'll have essentially, yes.
Essentially. Okay. That works. I'm happy now.
All right.
Mr. President, one more question.
Mr. Jim Wright?
It seems to me like a line of credit would be an easier, less expensive way to go. I mean, you got bond issues cost money just to issue them, plus you got the interest on that. The issuing cost of this bond got to be $12 million, got to be a pretty good sized number.
Well, we would have to pay the cost of putting together that document, just like we are with this.
Yeah, but you ain't got
warrant.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but this isn't a bond, correct? This is not a bond.
It's called a GO warrant because of the statute it falls under for that 3-year
Right.
period of time.
Right. Oh, Mr. Jim Wright, this
And we
isn't a
have
bond.
options. There are no penalties for early payment if we want to go ahead and do that.
But you got to pay your expenses up front.
I'm sorry?
The issue costs are going to be up front on that bond.
Yes, sir, and I've got that covered.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Council, before we adjourn, we have a special guest in the audience. I see just walked in. I want to recognize Representative Anthony Daniels, just sitting in the audience back there, Mr. Daniels. All right, we'll meet at 5 o'clock in the chamber, meeting adjourned.